Thank you for introduction, Sabina. So the topic is really interesting, cryptocurrency war. This is something we experience today. The first question would be, which technology do you see is the most advanced right now in regard to payments and why? And I would address it to Florian first, as an independent analyst and consultant who has been active in financial markets since 1995. So I think this is your question.
All right, thank you. First of all, hello, and from myself, and thanks for inviting me. Well, I think, first of all, what's really important is to understand, or I have to express it, I trust and believe in the free market and free competition. And so I think nobody really knows what's going to be the winner in the end, or the most used coins, or the most successful one. But we have to believe in the free market to figure this out for us. So therefore, I'm not a fan of any centralized coin, obviously. I'm not a fan of Libra. I'm not a fan of any state-issued digital currencies. I believe, obviously, in Bitcoin. I believe in decentralization. So I think that Bitcoin and Lightning together are probably the most promising setup. I think that Bitcoin is basically providing the environment to build everything else on top of it. And I love myself using the Blue Wallet, which is a very simple wallet on the cell phone, and it works flawlessly. It's nearly as easy that my grandmother could understand it. So I think that's, for myself, one of the best approaches so far. I think the scalability problem has been solved more or less. Yes, we will be facing new challenges down the road, but I think my number one would be Bitcoin and Lightning, and the second one would be Dash, because I really like what the guys are doing there. I like the instant send feature. I like the optional privacy. So you don't have to go through a coin mixer that you would have to do with your Bitcoins, for example, and then you can run into issues with exchanges and stuff. So I also like the speed that they already have, and I like the dApps that will come with Dash in the future, so where you can have basically reoccurring payments. So that would be probably my number two.
Well, it's cool. The good thing is Salamantex support both Dash and Bitcoin. And the interesting fact right now is that Bitcoin and gold, what you also specialize in, is growing the fastest than any other asset in the world. So what about you, CryptoRobby?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, everyone. And 43 made it back to the conference. First of all, thank you very much for having me on board. Marina, I hope you can all hear me. Yeah, the question was, and could you repeat again? But I understood that.
Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Which technology do you see as the most advanced right now in regards of payments, and why?
Yeah, the word advanced in context with cryptocurrency cannot be put in one sentence. Every technology is super at very super beginning. So we are just at the very, very, very beginning. And my opinion is that we don't know actually where the direction will go. What I know is that blockchain is the most stupid way to store data and to provide, but it's the only one we have at the moment. If you have a room, you know, an area and a dimension of the room, but we use we use the blocks and put one block after the other and close it. That's very nice for the very, very first application, which seems to work and is robust, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum. But in mathematical thinking, this is completely stupid. You have the room full, you know, n dimensions, 3 dimensions, 10 dimensions. You could have parallel blockchains. You could jump like Hashgraph does. So we are definitely seeing something very, very beginning, like diskette, you know, this diskette where we save. Like we will ask, you know, what blockchain? What was that blockchain? We will ask ourselves. So that's the first. Second, and the speaker who was before me, Florian, I think, he said that the scalability problem is solved. No, I completely disagree. We have not solved yet any scalability problem. Why? Because cryptocurrencies are not used. So who is using them now? Nobody. So we are also have a lot of work, which doesn't, we can, of course, definitely will see some adoption. What I see is that the Chinese government at the moment implements a national currency, which is not decentralized, which is a centralized, controlled currency. That's a very big threat for all decentralized solutions like Dash, like you name them all. So I see the biggest threat there. Libra is also a solution which is centralized. But in the future, of course, I see, and that's the nice thing, I definitely see that we will have some kind of decentralized solutions for payment. But let's go back to the payment. What I see also is probably we will not have anymore the act of payment. Let me do some I do some, I have seen this is Salamantex. Maybe the people, this
Wow,
payment.
you got that.
Terminal, you know this? It looks cool. Sorry, I have to. Of course. You can, yeah. That's the payment terminal of Salamantex. This is now fine, but when we look in the future, payment will be something which we don't talk about so much anymore. There will be no act of payment. We go to a supermarket, we drive out with our food and our grocery shopping, and the payment will automatically happen. So maybe children in 30 years will ask, Papi, what was that? Payment? What is that? I don't know, because we will not have that kind of. So when we talk about future of payment and cryptocurrency, I really have no idea which cryptocurrency will be the winner. I see some developments which could be interesting, but we should go in this direction where payment is something intrinsic in a business model, but not as a service anymore. It is. Like the internet. The internet is there. We have the internet. We don't talk about, is it your internet, my internet, which internet is the best? It's just the internet. And with this layer of decentralization, we'll have the same. We'll have a layer where we can transfer values, and that's the wonderful idea of blockchain. Yeah. I
really, always liked your futurist vision. And some things I agree, some not, but
I hope you don't agree with me all the time.
But central banks' digital currencies is a really interesting topic. I would like to discuss more deeper. What do you think about decentralized finance itself? You've been mentioning the possibility of this happening, like in more mass adoption level.
Centralized, what we will see, of course, we have nice models now, which I like. When we look at the car industry now, we have fancy cars, but we are in the car industry of 1908, maybe 1910, yeah? In the year 1910, yeah. That is where blockchain is. So, of course, I see decentralized financing models, tokenization models, which are vehicles to show us how the future could be. But behind the future, behind these little vehicles of payment, there is much brighter solutions which we don't know, we cannot imagine for the moment. We will still have to wait for that.
Exciting future.
Definitely, a lot of fun.
So just checking if Vikram is also with us. Vikram, are you here? I think not. Vikram, no. All right, guys, then it's only me and you.
That doesn't matter. If
yeah, it doesn't matter at all.
I can fill the gap if you.
No, there is no gap actually. We slowly get into another question. It's what is required for mass adoption, and I think both of you is a great speaker for this question because Florian, he's coming more from the classic investment side, like gold. So it's very interesting to see his opinion about that. And Robby has actually its own move, return on society, hashtag.
True. Yes.
So yeah, let's start from Florian.
Yes. Well, I think you have to look at this question from various angles. Obviously, when it comes to adoption in general, you want to make it as easy and smooth as possible, as I said before, so that your grandmother can use it. Then adoption will happen, right? And we are still far away from this in many areas. So I totally agree with Robbie that we are still in the early stages. At the same time, the speed is impressive as well. I mean, we've been now in a multi-year bear market, and at the same time, many projects are happening, working forward, progressing. So lots of things happening, and it's already very difficult to keep up with all the developments. So many things actually really happening, so many new tokens and coins, strategies, technologies. But the other perspective I want to shift to is when it comes to adoption, obviously, I mean, we all need some form of money, or better say currency, to exchange with each other. Right, I agree. Also, in the future, you will drive somewhere and the payment will happen automatically at the gas station if you still need a gas station or whatever it is. But then again, you will have services and special business processes that won't be able to just happen on an automatic basis. So, and people need something where they can trust in. And so what's going on right now is we are in the I think 50 years into the fiat money cycle now. If you look back over the last few thousand years, there's no paper money system that has lasted longer than 50 or 60 years. And what we just recently experienced, thanks to Corona, now we're talking trillion, and soon we're going to talk quadrillion, because everybody's bankrupt basically out there. All the companies are needing money from the state, and the states are printing like crazy. So what's going to happen is, and it's happening already, and that's what we've experienced over the last 6-7 weeks, the confidence of the people is getting lost into the fiat money system that we are into for 50 years now. So I think you can also see that the US dollar, the petrodollar standard, so to speak, is slowly but surely ending. There will be something new. Will it be a Chinese centralized coin? We don't know. I mean, they're certainly driving the agenda here. I think they are probably ahead when compared to America, and especially compared to the EU, the European Union. But would we use a Chinese centralized coin here, a digital money? I hope not. I don't think so. Has nothing to do with a free democracy. And if the Chinese back their digital token or coin by gold, maybe yes. I think it's going to be very interesting over the next few years. And I personally believe that the most important trend behind all is the decentralization trend, which is basically has been a quantum leap for mankind. First quantum leap was the internet, the decentralization of information and knowledge. And based on that, the second is decentralization with Bitcoin and blockchains. And we don't know what's to come next. I think that right now it looks like Bitcoin could be the first foundational layer kind of thing. What Robbie said, like different layers on top of it. I right now think it might be Bitcoin, but it's too early to say. I hope and believe there is free competition. And I think when it comes to mass adoption, if you receive your salary every month and you figure out like my euros are getting less by the day, basically, I mean, the purchasing power, you will have to figure out something for yourself. And we see this in countries like Venezuela, where you have high inflation already for many years. People are turning to other currencies. And I think that also, if you look just on the developments in the markets over the last few weeks, today, Bitcoin nearly closing the levels from the crash. So before Corona, we're back at 8,400 today. It's much stronger than stock market, the recovery. It's looks stronger even than gold now. So I think Bitcoin has a super bright future from that perspective. And it's the most established system at the moment on the planet. And the mankind is getting really in need of something stable, decentralized. And so it's going to be very exciting to see who's going to win or make the race. I don't know how to explain that better, but I think that the most important question really is people need some form of currency that keeps their purchasing power and that can be used to do business with each other. And it doesn't look like the dollar and the euro will be, and I don't recommend to use a Chinese centralized coin, and I don't recommend to use LIBOR for that. I strongly hope and believe that it will be something with Bitcoin or based on Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin is definitely a digital gold nowadays, and let's hope with Bitcoin halving, it will create more value. By the way, it's growing right now. Lots of influencers predict in next 8 hours to hit 9K. So we keep going up. And I do believe that this economic crisis, Corona crisis, is just pushing up the currency to the next level.
I think it's the most bullish event for Bitcoin.
I think so. It's very beneficial for us, guys. So the question for Robert, CryptoRobby is writing in his LinkedIn about his initiative to support blockchain project with added value to society, #return on society.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us more? Do you think it's going to help the mass adoption problem?
First of all, I saw in 2015, 16, 17, very, very stupid blockchain projects. The original idea of Bitcoin is wonderful. It really wanted to change the complete financial market. This is evident, that's not new. But what I saw is I was very disappointed. I was disappointed because people used it to get rich fast, which is of course possible, but there's much more behind it. It's more a revolution. So I was looking for projects which make sense, which have an added value to society, a return on society, not only a return on investment. And that's always I'm trying to work on and find projects which really make sense in a social way. Of course, it's all about transaction costs, reducing transaction costs. That's the way we simplify. We have decentralization, we have new ways of trust in that system, and that helps. So that's the first point. Second is I'm a consultant, business consultant. I work for many large enterprises, which are not so return on society, but which are very much into return on profit, return on investment and profit gaining. What I see is that some solutions in this future could be very interesting. Like I explained you, and in the chat somebody said, "Well, my vision is 2050. That is so far away," and so on.
But that's not bad. You have to look up front, you know.
Yeah, but I will give you an example. We were working with car manufacturers. At the moment, I'm working with an Asian car manufacturer, and there we are thinking about some kind of car wallets in a car, where the car itself pays for its service. An Austrian company, Riddle & Co., an excellent blockchain company, implemented such a car wallet for Daimler Chrysler. So the car in the future pays for the services themselves, which is interesting. So we have different players who pay for service. We have not only human beings being as a market player, but we have machines. We will have new ways of competition. And the question about of you was about mass adoption and return on society. What we must look here first is that these machines serve our purpose, that they don't control us like the smartphone does, and the coronavirus virus does for the moment. Yeah, it's not a machine, but it's kind of it's a molecule who really controls the world at the moment, and that I cannot have a haircut like this. So the Austria complete lockdown here in Vienna. And
same here.
So we have to make sure that these technologies have mass adoption. Just imagine, with Daimler Chrysler, the example is the cars which are produced this year. There's the idea of including this crypto wallet, this wallet, car wallet. We will see that it happens, but it will happen. It's like we added Bluetooth to the cars. We added a CD player one day. We have old-fashioned navigation. So we add new features there because we have to, because these cars are maybe on the road for the next 10, 20 years. So we have to include that wallet. So the parking is paid by the car, the road tolling, maybe the insurance, maybe the service of the car itself. We will have devices and new players. And when we have these devices ordering themselves and also being payers and being responsible for their payment, so it's not only humans who will pay, but machines. And there the mass adoption
machines
comes.
pay.
So It will be hard for Mercedes to use this, the device, the Salamantex device, but maybe Salamantex could also think about how in the future, and that's, I'm sure they don't, no, actually never.
Salamantex actually already planning new versions of terminals, but they're top secret, and I cannot disclose any information about that.
But that's nice.
Even in our team building events,
put it on a blockchain.
Yeah. Even in our team building, we also like to brainstorm what is the next future of the payment device can look like, and the ideas which team members bring in is incredible. It can be like a ball or something like on your hand, the futuristic.
Of course, it will be my idea. It will be a chip somewhere in my bloodstream. It will be a chip integrated. Definitely, it comes.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Everything is possible. Nothing is impossible.
If we have payments still at the end.
I think we will always have payment. Maybe it's a wrong word to call that, but after all, it's exchange. You give me something for your service of the good, I give you something in exchange, and this term we call payment. Maybe it will not be through terminal or through Bitcoin, for example, but there's definitely will be something. And now we come into the most interesting question, guys. It's a shame that Vikram couldn't attend us today because he is a thought leader in the regulation, but nevertheless, I'm sure you also can contribute the knowledge a lot. So what roles do you see the jurisdiction will play in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space? Let's go back to Florian. Florian, you still here?
Yes, I'm here. I think they obviously play an important part in it, and at the same time, it's a huge problem, I think, because there is so many different regulations, or no regulation at all, or just in the beginning, in the infancy, or they have been already thinking ahead, and then you have international companies, and for example, just if you run a node and you do a lot of lightning with it, you are already somehow a payment provider, but to whom then are you regulated? And then the jurisdiction is really important, and the regulation is still far behind. It's a complex topic. I mean, just for us to understand everything, we are for many years into this whole thing, it's already complicated. And I've experienced something similar in the music business in the early 2000s, when the MP3 changed the market so drastically, and it took basically, I mean, until today, regulation is not really still clear in many parts of the music business. So for example, this big fight that YouTube is monetizing videos, and then the authors don't get money for their music that is being played in the background in many tracks. It's a very complex story, and technology is so fast that they will always be behind. But you need to have some security or at least clarity of what you're doing, especially if you run a company also like Salamantex. So I think jurisdiction is very important, and I think the one like Switzerland that is the most progressive and free in a sense will be the most important ones. Germany also made a bold step somehow, but then if you look deeper into it, it's already getting more complicated, and there's a lot of question marks, and then you have to see how BaFin really acts on each of the proposals that you do. So I'm not a lawyer. I not have to really go through all this. It's a very important part, I think, and we will see, and we have already heard over the last few weeks that I assume that at some point they will stop the stable coins, because if I would be the Fed or the ECB, of course, you have to say, like, it's our money. We decide when to create it and print it out of thin air, but you don't have the right to make a digital version out of it, you know. So I assume that they will stop it at some point, all the stable coins, and then we will have to see the effects, the consequences for the whole crypto environment. I assume it will be bullish for Bitcoin at some point, but I think jurisdiction is a very important topic, and it's a huge problem, and we will have to see how this continues.
Well, the interesting thing about it is actually fresh news just from today that Congress has now introduced 32 crypto and blockchain bills topics, fighting crypto use, Fed regulation to cryptos, raising significance of crypto exchanges, crypto dollar, blockchain, and more interesting that Libra is becoming significantly important now for them after all these fights. So we can really see how government understand the demand for the blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's a real threat for them, and they start to make an action. And the country who is going to implement those regulations is definitely going to win. What do you think about it, CryptoRobby?
Actually, it's my bot speaking, so I have many faces. So
you're in space.
Yeah, yes, in the space. So regulation is definitely important. What we will see is, and we see it already, we will not only see that nations will have regulations, but we and the states and governments introducing regulations. Bitcoin is a law by itself. It says, the law says, for instance, example, there are no more than 21 million coins, full stop. That's kind of law. It's a paragraph in a law. So we will have code, which is law, which is a new way of thinking about regulations. Of course, we can discuss about, 2019 car industry and blockchain industry, how regulation is happening now. And this is very day-to-day business. I prefer the view in how it works in the long run. But of course, I see that Switzerland is advanced in its regulations, and all the other money finance hotspots, and Estonia is doing a good job. We will still have to see how China is dealing with it. What definitely happens with the China blockchain, national blockchain, is that not only it's a payment system which is introduced, a new cash, the digital cash, but it includes the way of invoicing, the way of taxing, the way we do business, the way we pay our taxes in the way that is automatically deducted. Maybe a whole more effective system will be put in place in China. And the United States are sleeping, the European Central Bank, the European Union is sleeping, Russia is almost also sleeping, almost hibernating on this question. And I see that not only Florian said he will hopefully not use Chinese cryptocurrency, digital currency. I think we'll have a point where we have to use it, because now my computer is probably made in China, my phone is made in China, my shirt is made in China. Probably the next thing is going to be the currency. I'm not a racist to say I don't want that. Actually, it's working, because I love my computer, I love my phone. It's working. It's okay. If they are more competitive and we are so stupid that we miss the chance, we deserve the punishment because of our stupidity, out of our narrow-mindedness. This is going to happen. And I think the blockchain system which China introduced will be soon copied in a less version, but they are 3 years ahead, as they are in artificial intelligence, in some cases in biotech, of course in corona research, and many other subjects.
Well, I think digital yuan might be created just within the ecosystem of the China, but nevertheless, I would disagree that Europe or United States are that stupid, because at least in Europe, we can see already experiments for other countries with the central bank coin, which I'm personally not a fan of, because I'm a libertarian. I like the idea that the power have to stay, in the hands of people.
Definitely.
Nevertheless, I think it's a good trend which will be beneficial for each participant of the crypto blockchain market, because, if the government step in and the regulations come in, people will feel more safe, more secure. So I think it's all like a great step towards the mass adoption in the end. And let's wait for the Bitcoin halving and let's hope, you know, it's going to be to the moon, and we
let me say something to Bitcoin. Let me say something Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, I'm a big Bitcoin maximalist. I believe in that, the idea, of course. But where I see the problem is that we don't have so much innovation in Bitcoin going on. And that's where it could stuck somehow, could get stuck in the, you cannot pay your coffee with Bitcoin. It's too slow, and it takes a while. Yeah. So we will, that in the long run, we'll have other call it cryptocurrency, token, whatever. We'll either have other ways to store value or means of payment, which are maybe faster, and the transaction costs are slow. Bitcoin is the lab example, the prototype of something which could be much faster and bigger. And that's why I of course hope that Bitcoin will grow and so on. But I have some doubts in the long run. I'm not sure whether they can keep the pace with the Lightning. Yeah, it needs some more input and some more brains to make that really a mass adoption, and that everybody would use that Bitcoin. And you can replace Bitcoin with other coins also, but Bitcoin is the first and biggest for the moment.
Digital gold. You know, with our terminals, you can pay quite fast. It's 30 seconds for transaction.
Yeah, I know. But because there is a centralized system behind, it's there is somebody in between. So it's another middle man. Maybe it's a middle woman in that case. Hopefully.
You never know.
The blue wallet already? I mean, it goes like really 2 seconds. It's super fast Lightning. I always use this if I talk with people about Bitcoin and scalability and then Lightning. I asked them to install the app, and it is really in 2 seconds you have the Satoshis transferred, and it's super fast. So I just recommend to take a look at this.
Yeah, okay.
We have a request from our community to wrap up, because some guys, you know, the schedule was a bit moved. So I just wanted to say from my end that it was a pleasure to talk to you again, Robert and Florian.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope to see you soon again. And